Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a video on Carlsen's blunders from round 8 of the 2017 London Chess Classic, the last tournament of the Grand Chess Tour. Carlsen was white in round 8, he played his friend Ian Nepomniachtchi from Russia, and it was played on the 10th of December 2017. Let's have a look at what happened. Carlsen opened knight f3 and c5 from Nepomniachtchi, c3, and Nepomniachtchi afterwards explained that this is a tricky move against Grunfeld players. It's a way for white to prevent black from the ideal Grunfeld setup. d5, d4, c takes, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, and we have an exchange Slav defense on the board through a very unusual move order. Bishop f4, knight h5, attacking that bishop. Bishop went back to d2, and the knight has no business on h5, so went back to f6. e3, and Nepomniachtchi afterwards said that he didn't know what to do here, as the last time he had played the Slav was in 2010, 7 years earlier. He played e6, bishop d3, bishop d6, and Carlsen played e4 here. Nepomniachtchi took, knight takes, and bishop back to e7. White has now an isolated pawn on d4, so we have an isolated pawn position, and as always it is a question if this is a strength or a liability for white in this version. Nepomniachtchi afterwards said that he thought it was okay for black, and he said one of the reasons is that bishop d2 is slightly misplaced and it might want to be on c1 in many variations. Carlsen castled, Nepomniachtchi castled, queen c2, h6, rook ad1, bishop d7, a3, rook c8, the rook on the same file as the white queen, white is to be careful with that, and knight c3. Many players were asked about his position, and Levon Aronian, when he finished his game, he commented here as well. He was talking about Nepomniachtchi's next move, which was a7, a6, and Aronian said better than a6 is probably the maneuver rook e8, bishop f8, knight back to e7, and then bishop d7 to c6. That is a classical way of playing this type of position. With the knight on c6, the position is always in favor of white, and black has to regroup his knight to e7. And Grandmaster Christian Chirila in the live broadcast said that regrouping the knight from c6 via a5 to c4 is also an option, but then you have to be careful of knight e5 jumps when this knight has gone to a5. He said with the black knight here on c4, then kicking that knight with b2, b3 is often not an option because that would hang that a3 pawn. Very interesting and insightful to hear grandmasters talk about the positions. So a6 was played by Nepomniachtchi, and Aronian said that maybe black was trying to play knight a7 and knight b5, but that didn't happen in the game. Queen c1 from Carlsen, also as expected by Aronian in his short analysis after his own game. Now white is threatening to take on h6, coming on to black as a ton of bricks, as Grandmaster Saruman put it. And another idea is that of the queen retreating to c1 is that he maybe wants to play his bishop to b1 and then his queen to c2, back to c2 to get attack against black's king on that diagonal. After queen c1, Nepomniachtchi immediately played rook e8 with the idea to move the bishop back to f8 to deal with any sacrifices on a6. Rook fe1 from Carlsen, centralizing the rook, and also possible lift rooks to e3 and then maybe to the king side, or maybe rook lifts to e5, also to strengthen the attack, a possible attack on the king side. Instead of rook fe1 you cannot take on h6, well you can, but it's not good, because after g takes, queen takes, bishop f8, black is better here. Black has enough attackers around his king and white doesn't have enough attackers yet. So rook fe1 was played by Carlsen. Bishop f8 to take any. Bishop takes h6, sacrifices out of the position. Bishop f4. Carlsen does not like his queen on the same file as the rook, so he wants to move that queen away from the c-file. b5, there goes the queen of the c-file. And b4. Carlsen took. Knight takes back. And here the grandmasters in the live broadcast had expected the bishop to drop back to b1 to save the bishop pair. But Carlsen decided to play knight e5. After bishop b1, black could have played knight bd5 and then bishop e5. That would also have been an option, but Carlsen chose for knight e5 and for giving up the bishop pair. Nepomniachtchi took on d3, Carlsen took back, and a5, which Nepomniachtchi said after the game that it was a mistake, a loss of time. He said he should have played bishop b4 straight away. But he played a5, queen f3 from Carlsen, now bishop b4, and here Carlsen played rook e3, lifting the rook. That rook will maybe one day take part in a kingside attack. Nepomniachtchi said that he had maybe expected bishop g3 followed by bishop h4, but Carlsen played rook e3 instead. Nepomniachtchi took, Carlsen took back with the pawn, bishop a4 attacking the rook, and Carlsen played rook a1 here. He could have played rook c1. The grandmasters gave a nice variation here, because it looks like black can take on d4, queen takes d4, because you cannot take that queen, because after rook takes c1 check, you will get checkmated on the back rank. But after a queen takes d4, which is actually a mistake, white has rook a1. Very nice move. Not taking the queen, but attacking the bishop. And of course the queen is still hanging, and these complications end up in white's favor. So that was after bishop a4 and then rook c1, but Carlsen played rook a1, attacking the bishop. Bishop went to c2, h3, bishop f5, g4, and bishop to h7. That bishop has made quite a journey. 4 moves ago that bishop was on d7, a4, c2, f5, and now to h7. Here Carlsen could have played g5, which is a very good move. And if the knight then goes to d5, there is actually knight takes f7. A very nice shot, because you cannot take that knight, because after bishop c7 check, the queen gives check to the king, you lose your queen with black. So after g5, black has to take on g5, has to take that pawn, and then bishop takes g5, and this is a very unpleasant pin, and it will be very difficult for black to get rid of that pin. He may have to live with that pin for the rest of the game. But Carlsen did not play g5, he played c4. Knight d7, black wants to swap the powerful knight on e5. Another move is queen takes d4, and then rook d1, attacking the queen, queen c5, and then bishop takes h6, wins back the pawn, because if you take that bishop, your knight is unprotected. A lot of white pieces are aggressively placed to take advantage of black's naked king, according to Grandmaster Jesse Sauron. And also Hikaru Nakamura was asked about this position after his own game had finished, and Nakamura thought Carlsen was winning here. But knight d7 was played by Nepomniachtchi, and Carlsen was under some time pressure. He had only 12 minutes left to reach move 40, and this is move 31. He should have played c5 here. And then knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, and it was Fabiano Caruana who explained this position, and who said that even though there are opposite colored bishops, white's bishop is dominating black's, and if black can get his bishop to d5, the d5 square, then he will be fine, but it's impossible to get that bishop there. So opposite colored bishops are often drawish, but not with a lot of heavy pieces on the board. And Caruana thought that this looked very, very good for white. But Carlsen did not play c5 in this position. He played knight c6, attacking the queen. So the queen has to play. Caruana gave the move queen b6, but then he said d5 is good for white, and the engine agrees with him. So Nepomniachtchi played queen f6, and that holds the balance. The position is about equal. Carlsen took the pawn on a5 and knight b6, and it was Grandmaster Chirila who said that he thought Carlsen had missed this move. He said Carlsen must have expected queen takes d4, and then after rook d1, queen a7 to keep the knight protected, and then knight c6 with some advantage for white. But knight b6 was played by Nepomniachtchi, and here, yes, the title of this video is Carlsen's blunders, and here's the first blunder. He played c5 and admitted after the game that he had completely overlooked that this pawn can be taken. Rook takes c5 was Nepomniachtchi's move, because if you take that rook, which happened in the game, then you lose the rook on a1 with check. King h2 and queen takes a5. And if you now take the knight, c takes b6, queen takes b6, then white has a long defense ahead. As Grandmaster Saruman put it, a tough day at the office. He's a pawn down. Yes, there's opposite colored bishops, but his king is quite exposed, and also Nepomniachtchi afterwards said that he really thought this would give black good practical winning chances. All the pawns are on one side of the board, that helps the defender, but this is not what Carlsen wants. So after queen takes a5, instead of taking a knight on b6, Carlsen saw a better move and he played queen c6. Makes sense, he's still attacking the knight and now he's also attacking the rook. So maybe a better version than taking a knight straight away, but he had missed something. This was his second blunder. This was a double exclamation mark move according to Grandmaster Saruman. Nepomniachtchi said afterwards he had not seen the refutation straight away. He was first looking at rook c8, and then queen takes b6, queen takes c5, queen takes, rook takes, and this is a bit better for black, but not as much as with the queens on in the previous variation. But then, after queen c6, Nepomniachtchi saw the refutation of that move. It's very nice. If you haven't seen the move yet, and if you want to look for yourself, please do so. This move will go around the world as a nice tactical exercise. I should use it for my daily 1-minute chess challenge. The refutation is queen a5 to a4. It's protecting the rook through the queen. It is attacking the bishop. And of course it's also attacking the queen on c6. And now white is going to lose a piece. Carlsen took the queen, he had no choice. And now that the knight takes back, that knight is no longer hanging on b6. So black has simply won a piece. Carlsen played on till the time control, c6, knight b6, c7, f6, rook b3 attacking the knight, and the 40th move was knight c8. And here Magnus Carlsen extended his hand in resignation, and you can see the picture here. A tough loss for Carlsen with the white pieces, and his opponent Nepomniachtchi is now leading the tournament with +3. Magnus Carlsen had saved a position a piece down, also with the white pieces, against Hikaru Nakamura 2 rounds earlier, but that was a very different position. In this position with a piece down, white has absolutely no compensation for the piece, and Nepomniachtchi said afterwards that he saw no problems in converting this technical task. Carlsen gave a short interview after the game. Nepomniachtchi gave a longer interview and said that Carlsen had been ill, had a bad cold, and he said that it's very difficult to play chess when you're fighting your illness instead of only fighting your opponent. It has to be said that Carlsen himself did not mention his illness in any of his interviews in this London Chess Classic tournament. he did not use his illness as an excuse for his poor results so far in this tournament. Round 9 of the tournament will be played on Monday, the 11th of December, and we'll see what happens. Carlsen can no longer win the tournament, but he can still win the Grand Chess Tour. It all will be played out in round 9. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel. Please leave a comment, and if you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. I have a series there on viewers games. This is Rick from Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.